future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
She's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Katherine Gray.
Welcome to Live, Love, Thrive Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by 360karma.com. You know, we often talk about how do we empower women all over the globe. And so today, our guest is actress Lucy Sheftel, and she's going to be talking about a nonprofit that she volunteers for called Action Kivu, and they help empower women in the Congo. And then later in the show, we're going to be talking with author Randi Maggid, and she has written a book called Beverly Hills Concentration Camp. And we'll be talking about how she is sharing her story about growing up in a household with a Holocaust survivor. So stay tuned for that. And right now, please welcome Lucy Sheftel. Hi, Lucy. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. So tell me, you are an actress, obviously.
Rare.
I probably wouldn't even have had to tell anybody, and they would have known that. Yeah, it's so rare in this town, right?
Yes.
But I know you're not from L.A.
No.
Yeah, so
I'm a Southern girl.
Oh, I love that. Me too.
Me
too. Yep. Was born in D.C., which is Virginia. That's considered the
borderline.
South.
Yeah. We'll count you.
Yeah. I'm kind of borderline, but I also kind of have a New York Southern accent, so it's kind of hard to judge. Anyway, but you grew up in Georgia, right?
I did.
Wow.
I'm
Now
a
that's
Georgia
South.
peach.
That's Southern.
It's gone with the wind, South.
Yeah.
As I
That's
like to
it.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how did a Georgia girl end up in L.A.?
Well, I think I was destined to end up in LA since I was a child. I was always telling stories and acting them out. Always felt sort of a bohemian streak from a very young age.
Yeah.
And
you said your parents were kind of bohemian, right?
they are. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if they would. I would say they're lawyers with some bohemian influences.
Oh,
maybe.
well, that's cool.
Yeah, a little bit of the law.
Yeah. But they weren't your, like, traditional, like they're very progressive.
Yes.
Okay,
definitely
progressive is probably the right word.
Democrats.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And so I'm always interested. Well, first of all, you then left there and did some off-Broadway stuff,
I did.
right? Oh,
I
how
went
fun.
to Syracuse for acting,
Oh.
and then off-Broadway after that.
Yeah. Oh, that must have been a blast.
It
I
was
loved
so
living
much
in New
fun.
York. I love that city. I love LA,
But New York's its own
New York is its own
magical-
animal. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yeah, they're two totally different cities, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think Los Angeles, it's sort of interesting. I like to kind of pitch LA to Southerners who
Yeah.
love New York
Yeah.
as sort of the perfect blend of the South and New York City. Because people sort of have a more laid back, mellow vibe out here.
Yeah.
But sort of the buzz of New York City.
Now, it's so funny because if somebody comes from the country and they come to LA, they think it's very bustling.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
very
Everyone's like,
intense.
"Rrr."
But to New Yorkers, LA
It's
is very
so
low key.
laid back. It's laid back like the South. Yeah, exactly.
It's all perception. So, how did you make your way to Los Angeles?
It's the funniest thing. I had thought for the longest time, especially doing a study abroad program in London at the Globe, to do Shakespeare.
Oh, fabulous.
I just fell in love with London, and I love Europe, and my family is very much an Anglophile kind of family with relatives. And I thought, okay, New York City will be sort of a close second to this and has tremendous theater like London does. But I also love film and cinema. And
This is your place.
this is my place.
Yeah.
And, these out here, people can really reach a lot of audiences with cinema and tell important stories and, all these social issues that I'm very passionate about. Not that they can't in New York City.
Right.
But there's more. I came, long story long, I kind of came to recognize that Los Angeles is sort of more of a beacon for that than New York City
Well, I do
is.
think films and TV, and I've said this before as a filmmaker, they do help change the world, and they do make an impact, and they do help educate people. Yeah, it's entertainment, but it also is very influential
Absolutely.
work and making the world a different place, which is something we definitely need to focus on right
More
now.
than ever.
More than ever.
And it's neat too. I'm so sorry. Because it's a subtle way
Yeah.
of making people see other people's perspectives.
Right.
It's not
Yes.
lost in the politics of
Right.
it necessarily. It's a way that people can just, be a fly on the wall.
Right.
and
Like, did you see Moonlight?
I have not yet.
Oh, my
but I am
gosh.
so excited.
Yeah, that's a little sneak peek
yes.
into a slice of life that most people wouldn't have
Have any kind of
any
expertise
indication
on
of
or
yeah.
yeah.
In other words, unless you're living in that situation, this was like a poverty drug neighborhood in Miami, and unless you're living in that, you would know what that felt like. But the
Right.
movie was so good about making you feel like you were living in
You
that
can fully resonate with
you situation and what it was like and how people are born into these situations beyond their control. Anyway, it's a powerful movie.
absolutely.
There's a lot of great movies out.
This is a great, I mean, aside from what's happening and the absurdity of the political sphere,
Of course.
the
but,
art is really rising to that occasion.
It
as well.
is, isn't it? Especially with Hidden Figures.
Oh yes.
Love that.
It's wonderful.
Love that.
Love that
talk
they keep
about
topping
women's
the box
empowerment.
office.
Yeah.
Like above Star Wars even.
Oh my gosh,
Yes,
really? I didn't know that.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go women.
Yeah.
And African American women.
Absolutely. That's a great women's empowerment movie, if anybody hasn't seen it. So you came out here to LA, and somehow you've gotten involved in this amazing organization that I want to tell our listeners about called Action Kivu.
Action Kivu.
Kivu.
But I like your Kivu.
And it's actionkivu.org.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So let's say that because we want people to be able to find it. And there, tell us how that organization, first of all, got started. Who are the
Sure.
founders? And I found that a fascinating story that I'd like to share.
Okay, so there's kind of two parts to this story.
Yeah.
I'll go into my part of this first, just for the sake of explaining it. Upon living in Los Angeles for a couple of years and doing the acting thing and being so dedicated to that, because out here, everyone's chasing their dream.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to spend your 20s so consumed with yourself.
Yeah.
And to earn, earning money to survive
Sure.
and just all the normal things. But, I sort of reached a point where I thought, I really have to get plugged in civically now.
Yes.
As an adult
And give back.
citizen. Yes. And
Because what people don't realize is when they're all busy focused on their art and making money.
to change the world too,
Yeah.
ironically.
That actually giving back ends up bringing this karma that helps promote and propel all the things that you're trying to do
Sure.
with your career.
Yes. And to help the people
Yeah.
that you would want to help through your own art anyway.
Yes,
ironically.
right. So you got introduced.
So I was searching for a cause and knew that, people will tell you don't do a cause unless you are 100% passionate about it.
Right.
Because you won't do it. You won't
Yeah.
go to the fundraisers. You won't.
Yeah, it
you know,
does make
put the
sense to do
effort.
something that you feel impassioned to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I knew women, education for women, and then I've known enough about the Congo in the past to be very interested in that. I did some work with a Rwandese survivor back in high school when I was president of Amnesty International.
Wow.
Funny things. And kind of learned about that part of the world through Jackson. And I was working at my restaurant as hostess one night and working with a lovely co-hostess who's from the Congo.
Oh,
But
wow.
she doesn't recall it because they moved when she was a child. So she's from Valencia. And we were talking about it that night, and I said, I really want to get involved in an organization that helps women in the Congo.
Oh my gosh.
And then a woman from the Congo walks into the restaurant. The two of them start talking about Congo. And I'm like, do you know of an organization where I could help these women? And she was like, no, actually, I don't. So cut to, I go out for drinks that night and really exhausted. And that's when all the magic happens, is when you just show up. And,
Right. Because you said you
whatever.
almost didn't go.
I almost didn't go. I was like, I've been working. I don't want to go out. Blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And I meet Rebecca Snavely through Kate Haight, who I know through my girlfriend Sunny. They're co-editors, Kate Haight and Sunny.
And they work on Transparent,
And they work
right?
on Transparent.
Which I love.
Which is phenomenal.
Yeah, award-winning show by Jill Soloway.
Talk about change and women. And
oh my gosh.
Just across the board.
You've never seen a television show like that.
Yes.
On television.
Artistically, too. It's very revolutionary.
Yeah, it's very cool. But anyway, we digress.
Sorry. Yes, I could go on every topic. So I met Rebecca Snavely through Kate Haight, and I step into this cocktail situation, and Rebecca is regaling everyone with this harrowing tale of being in a van on the side of a cliff in the Congo and nearly sliding off because it was rainy season.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Kate and Rebecca in a van. Children are piling dirt onto the road to keep the van from literally sliding off the cliff.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, oh, why on earth were you in this van in the Congo? And she goes, well, because we actually started a non-for-profit that partners with a grassroots one in the Congo.
You know, it's so interesting. I always wonder if, like, the minute you put it out there in the universe, it answers and delivers. I think that, or if it's some sort of intuition, like you knew you were going to be working in something with this, and you kind of had a premonition.
So I sort of set it up,
so to
speak.
Yeah, I wonder which it was, but however it was,
it was magic.
How cool is that?
Yes,
yeah, what a great story.
It really was. And
so immediately you're like, I want to be a part of this.
Immediately. I was like, first of all, Kate, you co-founded this amazing non-for-profit based in Los Angeles that helps women in the Congo and partners with an organization in the Congo there on the ground. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, God, people are just so, the more you get to know them.
Yeah. I actually interviewed another woman that is from the Congo. She set up media centers there to train women. So it's amazing what's going on there.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, the good that's being done through so many different channels. And
there are so many amazing women that are doing this kind of selfless work. And how lucky that you got to meet these ladies that started this.
They're amazing.
You know, we were just talking about one of them is over there now, right?
Yes. So Rebecca Snavely.
Yeah.
She flew from LAX over to Europe, just took a plane from Rwanda into Congo today. Like this morning.
We were just saying before the show started, like, what kind of a person does it take to do that? Like, to be able to go somewhere like that? It's kind of dangerous. And
the United States, by the way, says do not go.
Right.
Like, don't travel to this country.
I just think that that's such a beautiful thing that someone has that kind of chutzpah and determination and
Rebecca,
heart.
you met her briefly, I think, at the fundraiser. She is the loveliest, most gentle, warm soul.
Yeah, well, you'd have to be an amazing, wonderful woman to want to help people in another country and
to just put yourself out
there.
Yeah. But she's so brave.
That's brave.
I mean, all alone. It's just, and she's gathering more of these women's great stories.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
It's going to be, we're probably going to have some phenomenal footage and interviews and insight into all the work that they're doing.
Well, I know we have a picture of some of the crafts that you teach the women there.
Yes.
And give them skills so that they can earn a living, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the whole thing. What's that saying? Instead of
if you teach, is it the biblical?
Teach them to fish instead of give them the fish. Yeah,
more
but
or less.
But there's a lot of truth in that.
Absolutely.
You know, it's one thing to hand people food and clothing, but to teach them how to
provide
make a
for
living and
themselves.
Sustain themselves and their families is such a beautiful thing, and that's awesome. So I know
and
we had that.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know we had that picture, and then I wanted to hear one of the success stories of one of the other women that you were going to tell us about.
Absolutely. First, though, I'll kind of piggyback off of that and just talk about how Action Kivu sort of works in a dual way.
Oh, okay.
They, you know, as many people know of the Congo, rape and violence against women and children
is out of control.
Is a weapon of war.
Yeah.
And just such a humongous, I mean, it's a problem anywhere, but the way that it's utilized in that culture that has ongoing conflict is just astounding.
Yeah.
And
it's very disturbing, though. They just passed some law in Russia that said that people can have domestic violence and not be prosecuted for it.
Right, because it's their spouse. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Something very backwards.
You know, something's wrong with our world when we're saying it's okay for men to rape or beat women, whether it's their spouse or not. I mean, just another human being. Yeah,
right.
hello.
Absolutely.
So I'm so glad that this human rights and women's rights movement is really getting on steroids now.
Yes. Oh,
because
yes. It's been
even
emboldened.
even in the U.S., our culture cannot allow for this, and we set the tone for all the other women in the world and the countries in the world. We're the leader. We're the one everyone looks to. So we cannot say that that's okay.
No. And I mean, look at what happened even last night. I mean, Elizabeth Warren silenced on the Senate floor.
Yeah.
Red carded, so to speak, and I mean, reading the letter of a woman.
Has that ever happened to a man? I wonder.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there were men in that contingency of the Democrats who flat out read some of the same excerpts from Coretta Scott King's letter, and they were not
silenced.
Yes, I forget the exact term, but it's a very
until the world realizes, and especially our country, since we're the leaders, that women make up half of this world.
Yes.
More than half.
Yes.
And that until we are half of the decision makers and influencers in every industry, every arena, every country, that the world is not going to be in a peaceful, happy place until women are at half the table, because we bring a different essence to the table, a different thought process, and it gives balance to the world at large.
Absolutely.
And so all of these rapes and domestic violence wouldn't be happening with such intensity if more women were in positions of influence and power. And so wouldn't that be better for everybody? Yeah.
I think so.
And
statistically speaking too, I think it's very important to note that women, this is the Clinton Global Initiative that I'm quoting right now, but women reinvest 90% of their income back into their family, into their own families, whereas men, statistically, it's more like 35%. So even that really speaks to this, because women not only are at least half of the world population-wise. I mean, if women go on strike, then look at what would happen.
Right. I've heard rumors of that.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, rumblings.
Hello, wink, wink.
I know. On the other, I would say that it just goes to show that women are just one of the greatest untapped resources.
Yeah, they are.
I mean,
whether you take technology, science, politics, whatever, when you have both brains at the table, men's and women's, it's going to be a better outcome for the environment, for world peace, for children's education, all of those things. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so dialing it back to how Action Kivu works, it's a very, and I was very drawn to the organization myself because of this. It's very grassroots. There's a man on the ground who is like a saint. His name is Amani. I've not met him yet, but I will.
Yeah.
And he started his own program for local women there.
In the
because
Congo.
he had cousins who were victims of this violence.
Right.
And once women are victims, they are completely outcast from society. They can't provide for themselves because of how the structure socially is so patriarchal, sadly. So then they're sort of up a creek without a paddle. And his wife trained his cousins, and then all of these women started showing up in this sewing hut, and they began giving them lessons, and then it grew from there. So Rebecca and Kate here in Los Angeles, and the board members and myself and other volunteers like me, what we're doing is simply fundraising and raising awareness for this grassroots group.
Right.
So they're deciding the best way to utilize the funds. They're deciding which trades, all the different classes and educational opportunities and vocational training, and it's all self-sustaining as well.
Right. Because as is often said, it could be a woman in the Congo that actually has the cure for cancer, or invents the next important vaccine,
or just
or
simply invests in her own family, and then her children are successful because of that.
Right.
And Action Kivu also plays into that role,
right?
Offering scholarships and educational opportunities for the children of these women as well.
Right.
So it comes full circle.
Right. So that those children bring all of what they have to bring to the table.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It is generational.
We have to break that cycle too.
Absolutely.
It's one horrible thing to have a victim of a situation, but then to also sentence their own offspring
Right.
to suffering a similar fate.
Right.
And just keeping that cycle going.
Keeping
we
the
have to
cycle
break
going.
that.
Yeah, we do have to break that with everything. How we teach the young men in this country to treat women, how to respect them, and then that permeates into the cultures around the world.
The zeitgeist, and it's and you're absolutely right that right now it is so critical for us to come together as sisters, sister goddesses.
You know, and it bothers me when people are like, oh, we just want to focus on the U.S. Well, if that's not the most self-centered thing.
Well, what happens to one of us happens to all of us.
Right. And we have to care about people all around the world.
Yes.
I know some people don't want that responsibility, but...
Or it can be overwhelming, and it can feel like maybe my money or my, my innocent knowledge of things is not nearly enough to make a difference.
But you see, you felt drawn to help women in the Congo. So some other people might feel drawn to do something else.
Yes.
Everybody should have something that's passionate to them, but it doesn't matter where it is.
Exactly.
Because people are people, that's humanity. And so we should be loving and helping wherever we are, in whatever way we can, with prayers, with money, with
just simply being kind to someone on the street that you see and making eye contact with them. And
right. Well, it does
saying,
start
I see
with
you,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a Lyft driver this morning tell me, he says, I can't affect how other people treat me, but I can affect how I treat them. And I said to him, you're really wise.
Yes, that is great.
It's so true. We are letting other people affect us, and we shouldn't let them affect us. We don't have any control over it.
It's not ours to take on.
Yeah, we only have control over how we react to them and how we treat other people.
And what we're outputting.
Right. And so I know I've talked to quite a few people that have said, hey, let's keep moving in a positive direction. And so what that would entail is exactly what you're doing. Moving in a positive direction is, how can I help the world? Right. And you found something that's passionate to you in actionkivu.org. And everybody needs to find that. Everybody needs to find something that they are doing to give back.
You need to find something that there is a fire. Go where the fire is.
Exactly.
Don't go where, there's a little bit of an ember burning.
Right. Right.
Because that's never
some people it's animals, some people it's people, some people
children,
trafficking. I've had someone on that has one that helps children with autism. I mean, certainly one of these things must speak to everybody.
Of course, because of our own unique experiences.
Yeah, and that is it. Yeah, and so.
Or just what interests you, simply.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
I find it interesting myself.
Why do you think you were drawn to helping women, especially in the Congo and in this situation where they've had these atrocities? Is it something in your story that makes you drawn to that?
Honestly, I would say that growing up, and I was actually raised for my earliest part of my development in Atlanta, by a beautiful, incredible woman who was a powerhouse named Mary Middleton. And I called her May. And she marched with Martin Luther King. And my parents just thought she was a tremendous role model for me, and just so smart and wise. And she taught me about the civil rights movement from a very young age.
So she was your caretaker, and look how she influenced your life.
She was a mother figure.
That's so cool.
So injustice to me, especially out of prejudice.
Yeah.
Or whether it's racially, religion, women, whoever,
sexuality.
People who are vulnerable in any way through society, it just outrages me so much.
Yeah, me too.
And it takes me out of me.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this wonderful work and for sharing this organization.
I just want to say, please check out Ernada's story, because I didn't get to it, on actionkivu.org.
Oh, okay.
It's tremendous. Yeah.
Great. I know you guys are doing amazing things for these women, so thank you, and please thank the founders.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You bet. All right, we'll be right back with Randi Maggid. We'll be right back.
The Live, Love, Thrive radio show is produced by 360karma.com. Are you a 360 Karma woman? If so, spread the word. Be sure to follow us on social media at 360 Karma Women on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please like us and share us with family and friends. This is the year of the woman, and we are stronger together. The Live, Love, Thrive program is brought to you in part by Honda of downtown Los Angeles, supporting the equality and empowerment of women.
Hi, and we are back with Randi. Hi, Randi. How are you? I didn't want to say your name again because I want to make sure I don't mispronounce it.
Randi Maggid.
Maggid. And you told me Maggid means storyteller in
Right.
Hebrew. So how perfect that you're an author.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, it really is.
Did you feel inside yourself that was a gift to be a storyteller?
Yes.
Yeah.
I always wanted to write a book.
Yeah.
So it worked out.
A lot of people do, but they're not necessarily writers, which is, like, thank God for ghostwriters. Because I think a lot of people have that story in them, but, they're not a good writer. So fortunately for you, you were able to capture your story and share it. And thank you for sharing it. I know it's a tough subject. It's called Beverly Hills Concentration Camp, and you actually share your story about growing up with your mom, who was a Holocaust survivor. And on the show, typically, I'm talking about whatever people are doing today, and then we visit their background to talk about how it affects what they do today. But for you, actually, that is what we're talking about, is your project, your book, that actually is about your upbringing and all the obstacles that you had to overcome to be the awesome person that you are today, a mom and married and living this somewhat normal life. Does any of us live a normal life? But, right?
Right.
Yeah. So let's just share a little bit about the book, because I want people to pick it up. They can get it on Amazon, right?
Right.
First of all, I can't even imagine growing up with a mom that was a survivor. And I know a lot of survivors of the Holocaust won't talk about it. Was that kind of the case for you?
Yes, she never talked about it. Very silent. Basically, life was about what we were eating, food, and having a house, a roof over our head, a house, being safe.
Well, I mean, I can only imagine, I don't know how long she was there, years, right?
Yeah.
So, and unfortunately, she lost her family, her parents and her siblings.
Her two little brothers,
Yeah.
her parents, everyone.
Yeah.
Except one aunt.
Yeah. Yeah. It's even hard. I'm sure it must be hard for you to talk about. It's hard for me to talk about and just to hear your story. But how does someone survive that and go on to live a normal life? So it wasn't quite normal, I know, for you, because when someone goes through something so horrific as this, I mean, how wonderful that she survived it and had a beautiful daughter and sons and a family. I know she must be obviously very grateful for that. But I guess you feel the guilt of all the people you've lost. And
Yeah, she definitely has survivor guilt.
Yes.
And feels terrible. And she still lives it. She still lives like she is in a camp. She
Does
feels.
she?
Yeah, even though she's well
Free.
off and free. Yeah, she suffers every day.
Inside.
She thinks about them. Every holiday we have,
yeah,
her face changes. It's happy, then her face changes.
Right.
And you know that she's thinking about her family. Why
Now
aren't they
you-
with us?
Well,
So-
you would think, I guess is there any way for anybody to put that on a shelf and live a normal life after that's happened? I mean, I know you did say she has shared a little bit about what they went through. I mean, obviously there wasn't enough food. They were barely clothed. They were cold. They didn't have blankets. We talked a little bit about this. They shaved their heads, which takes away people's dignity, I think. And,
Right.
and then you were talking about, she did mention something about being involved with that doctor who kind of decides who lives and who doesn't. And
Yes, Dr. Mengele. So
Yeah.
she stood in front of him, and she shows me how he pointed right and left. He pointed for my mom to live and her parents and relatives to die.
and they knew that at the time.
Yeah, they
Pretty
knew
much.
it. They pretty much knew it. And, it
I-
just gives
I
me
can't-
shivers
yeah,
every
it
time
gives
she
me
tells
shivers.
me.
It gives me shivers. I can't even fathom that. Oh my God. I mean, just to even for a moment, that woman is amazing that
She's very strong.
Yeah, yeah. You said she's strong. You said she's beautiful and strong, and that's probably why and how she survived.
Yeah, and she just turned 90 on February 2nd.
God bless her.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Wow.
yeah.
But how sad that when they survive something like that, that it does torture them the rest of their lives. I mean, it breaks my heart talking about this. But does she find some sort of peace and joy, do you think? Is she ever the only way I have ever found that people find peace and joy is to be totally immersed in the present. Is that possible for her?
I think she has joy when she's with my family.
Yeah.
When she's with my children and my
Children
husband
bring it
and
out
I.
in people, don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
You know, because they're just so innocent and raw and authentic and real. It's like, how can you not love that? There's no agenda with them,
Right,
you know?
right. But growing up with her, I felt like I was in a little concentration camp. Of course,
Yeah.
not as terrible.
Right.
Nothing compares
you
to
were
what she
living in
went
Beverly
through.
Hills,
Right. I'm
but,
living in Beverly Hills.
You know, so
but-
people are probably like, what do you mean by that?
Right.
You know, yeah.
So inside my house, I felt her suffering. My father was also a Holocaust survivor. He died when I was 4.
Oh.
So I had it, on both sides. And,
Right. But she's really the one that raised you.
yes. And I had 2 brothers, and one brother had a mental breakdown, and he ran around the house acting like he was a German soldier. And he was 250 pounds and scared the hell out of me.
And you said he would shout in German.
Shout in German. He was actually born in Germany. He knows German, and he would scream at me, and I would hide and lock the door and hide in my bed in the corner. And
How terrifying for a little girl.
it was terrifying. And so every day after school, I went to Beverly Hills schools, and I came home.
So you'd go out into this normal world and come home to this dysfunctional world.
Exactly.
Right.
I'd
And
go
you're out there trying to be normal.
very hard trying to be normal and have
Right.
friends and have a life.
Right.
And I come back and I have to put my backpack down slowly, tiptoe into the house so he doesn't know I'm there. Because if he knows I'm there, he will run in and scream at me and step on my sandwich if I make a sandwich for a snack. I was
cruel.
afraid. So I would run into my room and hide and lock the door. So this was my life after school.
Oh my goodness. You probably didn't want to go home.
No, I didn't want to go home, so I joined a gym. So I worked out. I had hours in a gym. I got a job. I would
Anything to
work.
get out of the house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How old were you when you left your house?
When I got a job, you mean?
Or when you left home? I mean,
Oh, as soon as I got into college.
so, yeah.
I made sure I got a college that was far enough away.
Right, right.
So I didn't even apply to the closer ones.
Right, right.
So-
I could imagine. You
Yeah.
must be a tough woman.
Yeah, I'm pretty strong.
Yeah, you had to go
Yeah.
through all that. I mean, and now you told me a few other stories, like, for some reason your mom just wanted you to have one pair of pants and a couple shirts, and so that's kind of weird, like going where everybody's all high profile at Beverly Hills High, right?
Right.
And trying to fit in.
So I had one
And what-
pair
what
of
was that
five.
about?
I had one pair of 501 Levi's and a couple of shirts. Well, my mom thought that was a lot. If you were in a concentration camp,
And you had nothing.
a pair of pants and a shirt. Wow, that's something. You have enough.
Right.
And I'd go to school and at Beverly High and at nutrition, there's girls wearing Chanel suits, and not that I'm a designer person. I'm not into that, but it's still, people made fun of me.
Sure.
Why are you only wearing one pair of pants?
Right, right.
Don't you have any clothes? Why doesn't your mother buy you anything?
Right. And
So-
you couldn't explain it to them.
No, because I just couldn't say anything.
Right, right.
And my brothers got whatever they wanted. So this
Yeah.
is interesting too. It's
that I found odd when you told me that. What do you think that's about?
the males were more important. My mom was raised that way.
Thinking
so-
that.
Thinking that.
Wow.
Yes, thinking that, and who knows how she was treated in the camps. So,
Yeah.
but still, the mentality was that males were more important in
Right.
general.
Right. How sad. Do you think she still feels that way?
Sometimes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder what it would take to change your mind to realize. I mean, her daughter wrote this amazing book. She should be thinking, rock on.
That's true.
I know
She's
she was
happy.
proud of you.
Mhm. Yeah, she was happy.
So that made you feel good. She was.
It makes me feel great. We have a much better relationship now that I wrote it.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, because of everybody in the family, you're the bold one that wrote it.
Right.
It took a lot to write that. That's a very vulnerable book you wrote.
It did.
Yeah.
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard when it came out. I was terrified, and now I am
Now you feel
thrilled.
free.
Very free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, right? When we shed light on the darkness, it's no longer dark.
Right.
It's not a secret anymore. And then it doesn't hold power over you, right? So it
Right.
helped empower you to write the book. And I know you told me you wrote it not only to heal yourself, but to heal other people that live in homes of Holocaust survivors.
And other people. This
And
is
other people.
Anybody that suffered a trauma or
Right.
has anything. I have so much in my book. It covers a lot of issues.
Right, right.
And,
Because you had an eating disorder, right? Because of the way things were handled in your house.
well, I don't know if I have an eating disorder, but I do struggle with
The food thing, yeah.
With the food,
now,
yeah.
I remember this excerpt in your book about, you said your mom would go down and buy like all these pastries for breakfast every morning.
Every morning.
Because she wasn't used to having all that food. And so once you do, it's like,
Oh yeah, she
Look
went
out,
to
you know.
Benish's Bakery in Beverly Hills on 3rd. Oh yeah, she'd walk there. We had delicious things, and
Right.
then I learned about calories, and that one Danish was, I don't know, 2,000 calories,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so yeah, I corrected myself.
And that was like so not L.A.
Right, and actually, if
Since
when I-
everybody in L.A. doesn't eat carbs, you
right,
know?
right, exactly. But going on a diet or watching my weight was a bad thing in my house. I was a bad girl. I was, rebellious.
Right, because I mean, you take a woman who was starved for years, and then pull her out of that, and then she must think food is like, a godsend. It is,
It
you know,
is.
and so that must be how it put it out of whack. Like she wanted you to eat a lot.
Oh yeah, she
Yeah.
had big spreads, and she was a very generous person when we had guests.
Right.
And she had big spreads of food.
Yeah,
And then she would leave it. She'd leave it out for the whole day after, so that if we were still hungry, we might pick at something.
right.
Well, if you're walking by, maybe you'll grab that cheese slice.
Right. But I can understand if you're starved like that, how you would think
It
you
comes
want it to
from
always
love.
be a feast.
It
Yeah,
co-
that comes
it
from
comes
love.
from love, yeah.
Yeah, that's good that you look at it that way. And that's what I wanted to say in this interview today is that I really applaud you for really putting a positive spin on what you've been through. So where this seems like a really sad, grim story, really your message is and your life is that you can come out of this and be okay, and that it takes work, it takes determination, it takes understanding, and I think at the crux of all of it is always love.
Right, right. And
I
you have
think-
to love yourself first.
I think you have to love yourself, and then you just love that person no matter what. Unconditionally, you have to say, oh, well, they did the best they could, and it was really tough, but like you said, the food and things, that was
Right,
love,
Right.
Yeah.
So I took my healing. I went to a lot of healers, a lot of teachers.
I bet you
a lot
did.
of alternative things. I tried everything.
Yeah.
I spent quite a bit of money on myself because I have kids and I just wanted a better life for everyone.
Right.
So when you heal yourself, you're healing everyone around you.
Right.
You're healing your whole family rises to a
Right.
different place.
Right. So when you got married, and I know we have a picture of you with you and your husband getting married, and we have a picture of you and your mom, and when you got married, had you written the book yet?
No.
Okay. So you still were having a lot of issues. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I still blocked out everything that happened to me in
Mm-hmm.
my house, and I carried it in my body.
So you did the same thing your mom did, because that was you. I mean, she blocked out everything, kept it inside, and
Yes.
then you learned that probably from her, and that's
Yes.
what you did.
She told me not to talk about it, not to tell anyone. It's our problem. It's our business.
Right.
So I kept it in my body. And eventually I turned my head. I hurt my neck. I could not move. I was stuck.
Right.
And my journey was to release the pain,
Right.
to get out of the pain. It took me a few years.
Right.
And now I have the skills to help other people. So
Right.
not just with the book, but I became a healer. So I
Right.
help people heal themselves.
Right.
And that's my mission now. I just want
Wow.
everyone
and
to
you
feel
realized
better.
that was another gift that you had, was the ability to help heal people. Wow.
Yeah, because I can feel it in them. I can see it, feel it. I know what to do. And it's
Wow.
instinctive now.
Wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What a gift. Yeah. So that's what I tried to wanted to convey today, is that you've taken all this you've been through and put it into such a positive life. Yeah.
Yeah, and my life just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
And I'm happier and happier, and I almost don't feel in my body at all anything in that book anymore.
Right.
I can talk about it, but I
Yeah.
don't feel it.
Right.
I don't carry it.
Right. Because once you process it and let it go, it no longer resides there.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't have a home anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And so when your husband met you and you got married, did he had no idea your background, or?
Oh, he knew my background.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think either of us knew how much pain I was going to get into,
Right.
and that any of this would happen.
Right.
And interesting thing is that, it's kind of sad, but we were talking about this yesterday, is my father had another family, that got killed in the Holocaust, and he had a baby. So the baby got killed in the Holocaust, and so I had a half sister that died. And I would never have known that had I not met my husband, whose mother met my aunt in Israel, and they talked about it, and she told them.
What a crazy
Because
story.
my mother
Wow.
did not want to tell me anything. She didn't. She was that quiet.
Right.
So it was almost a little miracle that I learned a little bit more.
Right.
And so now I feel even more connected that I had a sibling.
Wow.
So it's very
That's
interesting.
some story. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what is your life like today with your children? And
Yeah, we have a great relationship.
That's
My
great.
kids are amazing, smart, high honor students. My daughter's very outgoing, and my son wants to be an engineer. They're both, he's
Amazing.
14 and she's 17, so they're still young.
yeah.
But if they ever have any issues, we do alternative healing. We do breath work.
Uh-huh.
If my son has a little anxiety before a test,
Yeah.
he asks for breath work. Same with my
Right.
daughter.
Right.
So we do that. It's fun, and it goes away. The
Yeah.
tension goes away.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great that you're able to pass that on to them, and that they could have this amazing childhood and upbringing. And, because we were just talking in the first half of the show. Turn this way a little bit. So we were talking about how generations repeat. And so you are breaking that you're breaking that, what's the
Cycle?
word I'm
The
looking
cycle?
for? Cycle. Hello.
Right.
It's that over 40. I couldn't think of the word. Yeah, breaking that cycle. So
Right.
good for you. Because if
you.
you hadn't, it would have perpetuated.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are your brothers today?
Well, the oldest one passed away. He had a
my
heart
gosh.
attack, and I have
The
a
one that thought he was the German?
Yeah, and now I
Wow.
would say we have a better relationship.
Yeah.
But spiritually, I feel him, and
Yeah.
I know he didn't do it on purpose. I'm healed
Right.
from that.
Right.
The other brother, I have no idea where he is.
You have no idea where he is? He
No,
left?
he just took off. Yeah.
Wow. And do you think that's because of he couldn't handle the upbringing? Do you think it was?
I don't know. He had his own issues from the Holocaust. I would say, the epigenetics, the
Right.
inheritance that we have.
Right. People
going
don't
on
always
with our
know what
genes.
that is. Let's talk about epigenetics.
Yeah, it's what our genes carry from the past.
Yeah.
So what I found out was that there was a study done in New York at Mount Sinai Hospital, and 35 Jewish families were studied, and they were either concentration camp survivors or people who ran and
escaped it.
escaped.
Uh-huh.
But they had a genetic stress marker that got passed on to children,
Wow.
and they say also grandchildren in the
So
study.
the children or grandchildren are born with this stress DNA or gene.
They call it a tag, but yeah. It's,
And so it means when they're born, they're like a stressed kid. Like, is that what it means?
I'm not sure. I think it just can come out, and you feel
Yeah.
different.
Right.
And
Because of the past experiences of people in your family.
right.
Yeah.
And so-
it makes sense. I mean, it sounds plausible.
Right.
Yeah.
And they also found out that the people who have these genetic markers or tags, they couldn't have gotten them from something that happened in their life now. It had to have come from the past.
Right.
So that's really important research for the future. For other people who have had traumas, it doesn't have to
Right.
be about Jews. It's,
Right. Yeah. What is your advice to other women or men, that are growing up in households with survivors? What would be your...
With survivors now,
Yes.
I think they should meditate and do breath work, two-stage pranayama yoga breathing, and find what's good for you, because there's so many alternative things you can do to heal yourself. And you can try to help the others in your family, but to help yourself first.
Right. Yeah, like I was saying on my way here, I had a driver say, you can't affect how other people react, but you can affect how you do.
Right.
And so I would think in that situation, you want to help and fix that person, but the likelihood might not be there. So the only thing you can do is work on you, which is what you did.
Yes, because when I was younger, I felt nothing but guilt because I could never make my mother happy.
Right.
I couldn't do anything.
And at some point you got to a therapy and realized, oh, it's not me.
Right.
You know, but there's things you could do to make yourself happy and
Right.
grounded.
And somehow I'm affecting her too. So because writing the
Right,
book, the book. I mean, I was terrified to give her that book.
Right.
And I just gave it to her, and she smiled at the title. She thought it was hysterical, and not hysterical but funny. And
Yeah.
and she was proud. She said she had her caregiver read her the book, and my husband asked her, "What did you think?" And she said, "Well, it's true."
Wow.
So I know I did the right thing.
Even though you're writing it and you're thinking all this stuff is crazy, some of the stories you've shared with me are kind of, hard to believe, is that they must read it. They know it's true. And it wasn't like they weren't aware of it at the time it was happening, but maybe to look at it from the outside in, almost as an observer, maybe they then realize, yeah, I did do this, and that probably wasn't right,
I believe she feels that.
Yeah, but maybe didn't see it till you wrote it.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's helped heal her. I also feel
That's a wonderful thing if it's helped heal her.
Right.
That's got to be rewarding.
Yeah, and we also took videos of her. So she didn't want to do the Spielberg Shoah project. So one day she let us tape her. So we asked her questions. My husband and I asked her questions. So we got as much of the story as we could. And in my book, I put in excerpts of what she said.
Oh.
Also to kind of...
Have your kids read the book?
Parts of it I would read to them.
But not all of it.
Not all of it.
Okay.
But my daughter's friends got a hold of some of the books and pointed out the racier scenes to my daughter. So now she wants to read it. But but she also knows most of the stories.
And so what has she said how she feels about it?
She's proud of me. She was so proud when the books came to the house and she saw it.
But when she read what you went through, how did that affect her?
She's strong. I think, very proud and strong, and feels a connection to the past also.
But did she feel compassionate for what you've been through?
Yes.
I would think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both of my kids. They're very... Yeah, and I asked them before I put the book out, is this okay with you? And they were very supportive.
Oh, that's cool. And your husband?
Oh, very supportive. He's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the whole way. He was just kind of watching me and supporting me, and it was good. I'm lucky.
I'm so happy to have you on and to share this story, because every week I always want to showcase women that have overcome obstacles and they're doing triumphant work in the world, and you are just the epitome of that.
Thank you.
So keep making a difference, keep healing people and writing and doing all the good that you're doing, because you're helping empower people.
Thank you.
And you're a great role model.
So are you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love it. Well, we will be back next week with more guests, live noon here at UBN. We're also on iHeartRadio and also iTunes and YouTube and elsewhere. So thank you for tuning in, and make it a great week. Hugs and happiness.
The Live, Love, Thrive program is brought to you in part by Honda of downtown Los Angeles, supporting the equality and empowerment of women. The Live, Love, Thrive radio show is produced by 360karma.com. Are you a 360 Karma woman? If so, spread the word. Be sure to follow us on social media at 360 Karma Women on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please like us and share us with family and friends. This is the Year of the Woman, and we are stronger together.